So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell people that was you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jackson with Jackson 23, Jet Jackson. Unfortunately, we seem to only have one Jackson with us here right now, and it is the wrong Jackson. It's bad Jackson. Good Jackson is, in fact, having some technical difficulties. So, yeah, I don't know when he'll be here, but we were on the phone earlier, and he is working on it. Apparently, his internet is not letting him open the web-based Discord. Because for some reason, Good Jackson, despite being Good Jackson, never bothered to actually download the separate app for Discord to his computer, which is a weird move for me. That seems weird. Also, Azo64 has been a member for 10 months and is at the Amnio level, and he sent a blank, they sent a blank membership milestone chat to point that out, I guess. So thank you very much for your generosity, Azo64. I really appreciate you being a member of the channel. For those of you who are new here, the way this generally works is I take a look at some Creationist. These Tuesday streams are usually the sort of bottom of the barrel. No, that's not entirely fair for Charles Jackson. Charles Jackson is smarter than, Matt Powell or Raw Matt or Kent Hovind. So, it's a little bit unfair for me to lump him in. But that's okay. I think Jackson is actually calling me right now, and looks like he is muted on my end, but I am sharing the video with him, and hopefully when he is unmuted, we will be able to get him in the chat on screen. I don't know if he's doing a camera. I feel like he's probably not, but that's okay. We'll still put up whatever he has on screen here. Just give me a second. Let me add him in. Boom. Look, there's Jackson. Jackson, say hello to everybody. Okay. Oh, there he is. Okay. And while we do it, we have a bit of a drinking game. I was just explaining the drinking game, Jackson. So I have a few things to read. Then we will ask Good Jackson here how he's doing. And then we will get into the rules. And then we'll get into the actual watching of Bad Jackson. So Ren sent a blank super chat for $1.99, but it was Ren's first super chat on the channel. So thank you very much, Ren. I really appreciate it. Welcome to the Dapper Dinosaur channel. I hope that you enjoy, hanging out with us. Trail Mix has been a member for 9 months and is at the Amnio level and says, we need Techno Dapper to help Good Jackson. And there's a Godzilla emoji, so we will take a quick drink for the Godzilla emoji. Because, yes, in fact, if you membership milestone chat or you send a super chat that contains a kaiju emoji that includes Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, we take a drink. Now, you do have to be a channel member for that. The two big ways for that are there's a join button down below this video. That starts at $1.99, goes all the way up to $20 if you're feeling generous, or you can hope that someone gifts you a membership. So there's that. Gifting memberships is right in the same place as super chats. Savage answers in Yahwist Cobra for $5 says AIG is a bag of Eurychus Calpo, the fat innkeeper worm. Ooh, take a drink for that. Which is another drinking rule. If you super chat or milestone chat anything to the effect that AIG is a bag of dicks, we'll take a drink. Now, that is the initial drinking rules that have already been triggered that I wanted to make sure people knew about. Jackson, Good Jackson, how are you?
Hey. Okay. A pretty normal day.
Really? Well, that's good, because it's been a weird day for me.
Weird day, you say? Why might that be?
Well, so I just recently, at the end of last week, finished off like my 7th video for this month that I've made. Yeah, which is a little crazy since I only release 4 or 5 a month. So so today I woke up early and I just started just marathoning pseudoscience nonsense to find out what my next video was going to be. It was just a non-stop barrage of pseudoscience at like ×2 speed on YouTube, just directly into my ears.
Bless your soul.
Yeah, that already started out weird, right? So then also, I find out, like, oh, hey, like, apparently the 45th president of the United States is now simply liable for massive amounts of, like, bank fraud. And,
Yeah, he is.
yeah, like, just so much fraud. Just all of it.
Yeah,
All
the fraud.
and so the Trump
Power belongs to
organization
him.
is being dissolved. Like, jeez, that's rough. Also,
Violin.
the in the Canadian Parliament, the Speaker is resigning after leading a standing ovation for a member of the SS, which is also one of our drink triggers. National Socialist German Workers' Party. Take a drink. It's usually the Creationist who brings it up, not me.
Like, it's like, yeah, a literal Nazi got a standing ovation.
Yeah, not like everyone I don't like is literally Hitler. A guide to political discourse. No, like an actual I joined the SS type of guy. Yeah.
Fought against the Soviets in World War II.
Yeah. Yeah. So then also I was like, the whole day I've been like, do I have jury duty tomorrow? Do I have to go to court tomorrow? Turns out no. But then also, my human dad, the guy, from the family that adopted me after I, wanted to integrate into human society. Yeah, he's got bears at his house, apparently. Sent me a video of a black bear just running around. I mean, all bears are both, basically.
Okay, fair enough. You got me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a really weird day, but you know what? I had a celebration martini after realizing I did not have to go into jury duty. So I've actually pre-gamed this episode, which is a first for me. I'm already slightly there. I'm a martini in. So, Yeah. So let's go through the other drinking rules. So another one, which can be triggered by my lovely audience, who is currently in danger of being bilboed if they don't hit like, is that if they gift memberships, I will take a drink for each gifted membership. So now that goes up to about 30. You get 30 or more, I'm just going to finish my beer, add however many to the drink counter, and go get new beer. So, let's see. Snorfoot, who's been a member for 11 months and is at the amulet level, thank you very much, says, good gravy, 11. Snake Eyes, here's to a big AIG bag of dicks with dick spelled backwards. Thank you very much. Take a drink for that. All right. So, now, the Creationist is usually our biggest source of drink triggers. Now, Bad Jackson, can trigger a drink in a number of ways. One, if he says something that's just too stupid, we have to take a drink, we take a drink for it. Right, Jackson?
Got Gatorade.
Nice. I've got some Kona Brewing Company Big Wave Golden Ale. Never tried it before, but I'm trying it now.
Oh.
Yeah.
See.
If our Creationist gets something right, and it's like not just a quotation from someone, but he actually gets it right, we take a drink. We also take a drink if the Creationist tells a joke that doesn't land or tells a story that didn't happen. So, for instance, if he tells some story that is, say, about how he had this, crazy conversation with a Berkeley professor on an airplane, which he schooled that guy on the Big Bang and evolution, when really sounds more like an argument he won with a shampoo bottle one day, yeah, we take a drink for that. We will also take a drink for Trojan source, which is if the Creationist in question cites a source and we look it up, and not only does the source fail to support the contention that Creationist has, but actively contradicts it, then we take a drink for Trojan source. We also have one called ad hominid. Now, this can only trigger once per stream, but if a Creationist ever mixes up Lucy, the individual Australopithecus, for any larger taxon, whether it be her species or genus, non-Homo sapien hominins in general, we take a drink for that, but it's only once. Ad hominid.
Ad hominid. I like that. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Asteru for $9.99 says, Apple would be an exhibit of scrotum humanum for taking until the iPhone 15 to use more universal standard plugs, but that title is reserved for AIG. Thank you very much for taking a drink. Yeah, it actually took pretty severe regulation from the EU before they did that, because the EU has been increasingly pressuring Apple to be like, no, you have to standardize, right? You can't keep using proprietary everything. So Borg Emporia says, will Dapper Dinosaur ever stop producing entertaining videos? I mean, at some point, the universe is going to reach heat death, so yes. I will definitely at some point stop producing videos. It'll probably be a lot earlier than that, but who knows? If you guys donate enough, maybe I'll become completely immortal, rather than just the near immortality I already have for having already lived for 150 million years.
Allegedly.
Yeah, there you go. If you guys donate $500 billion today, I promise I will never die. Yeah. DM Teriyaki flavored Arcwing for $5 says, don't let the Creationist win. Super chat those drink triggers with a Godzilla. Thank you very much. I'll take a drink. Let's see. We will also take a drink if either Good Jackson or I can predict where Bad Jackson is going, where it's not obviously clear. Now that's a little bit of a judgment call, but you know, we tend to be pretty generous with it. I already mentioned it, but we will take a drink if Charles Jackson mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the NSDAP, their various prominent members, or any of their more historically significant activities in, say, the 20th century. Now, Samuel Patre for $20 says, this super chat intentionally left blank. Also, AIG is a bag of dicks. Nice. I love both of those things. Jackson, do you know about this page intentionally left blank?
Like in books? Yeah. I've seen it.
Yeah, it happened all the time in the military.
I mean, like, do I know like the reason they do that? Because that'd be no. I don't.
Oh, it's just so that you know that there isn't a misprint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not complicated. It's just like, this isn't a misprint. We didn't put information here. Aster Ryu for $4.99 says, just become a fruitarian. Clearly, that's the secret to eternal life. Sarcasm. Yeah, that's definitely going to do it. Yeah, if you want to hear more about that, go tune into Matt with Maddie for our raw Matt nonsense. Goop23 for $5 says, donate so Dapper can commission a painting that ages instead of him. Yes, I want to be Dorian Gray. That's going to be great. You guys have such great references, and I'm so happy that like my audience's interest and mine align close enough that I get most of the references they make. Because like that's not a guarantee. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you're a smart cookie.
Thank you. Origami Swami says, but why have the page at all? Now there is a good question. I don't know. Now, we can also take a drink if Godzilla or Mothra come by audibly. That is a thing that happens with my phone occasionally. There is never a guarantee, but you never know. And I think that basically sums it up. If I forgot any, I will make sure to drink for them anyway, and you'll just learn as we go if I forgot any. Now, please do remember, if you decide to play along with the Dapper Dinosaur drinking game for this, first, you do not have to play with alcohol. Feel free to play with a vape, with water, with tea, with Gatorade, like Jackson's doing. You can play along with whatever you want, or nothing, you know? You can just mark each drink with, like, you know, a fist pump or something. I don't care. But if you do decide to play along with an intoxicating substance, please be responsible, know your limits, and also, both Jackson and I, and just the channel in general, take neither liability nor responsibility for any bad decisions you make as a result of playing along. For instance, don't drive, don't operate heavy machinery, don't text your ex. All things you shouldn't do. Yeah, don't do them. But with that, I think it is about time that we get in here, and you guys are currently narrowly avoiding being Bilbo'd. But if you want to stay that way, I suggest a few more of you hit like, or it'll have to be Bilbo time. Jackson, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right, now, I want to give a little bit of context. Bad Jackson here is talking about the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate, and he is complaining about things that he thinks Bill Nye got wrong, perhaps knowingly so.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't particularly care. I don't feel the need to defend Bill Nye. Like, he's not, like, my king or anything, so...
No. I mean, they both did really badly in that debate.
They did both do badly. I do think Ken Ham did worse.
But, 100%. I mean, literally just saying, but the Bible says, is probably not... Like, you're arguing against someone whose position is, hey, here's all the science and stuff, and you don't come back with, at least, but my guys have this argument, and you just say, sorry, the Bible. You've lost. Sorry.
Trail Mix for $500 billion says for $5, unfortunately. Darth Sidious voice, which I'm pretty sure what he meant instead of Darth Studious voice. Darth Sidious voice. Do it. Was that a good enough Darth Sidious voice?
I liked it.
Okay, good. All right. Here we go. Here is some more Charles Jackson. Oh, by the way, anytime you say the Bible has been translated from translations and like multiple translations all the way to get to you, you're already showing that you don't know anything about how ancient texts work and how translations of them work. So you should just stop.
Dapper, don't you know people can't today just translate old texts?
Yeah, you can't just learn first century Greek or ancient Hebrew.
Thing.
Yeah.
No one does that.
There are hundreds of lexicons and grammars out there that you can study or anything. You can't just learn it for free online.
No.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that.
Although it does remind me, every time I try to read some Hebrew, like my brain switches like into Arabic mode, and I start saying like Arabic cognates, and people are like, "That's the wrong word." I'm like, "Oh, right, that's the Arabic word. Sorry about that." Because almost every word in Hebrew is a direct cognate to Arabic. And, like, I know the Arabic better, so. Ren for $9.99 says, I just want to thank you for having this channel. I grew up in a very conservative creationist home and church. We were taught dinosaurs live with people, and questions were very discouraged. Well, thank you very much. I'm really glad that I'm providing an outlet for you, who is a person like me, right? I was taught the same thing. So, yeah, here we go.
Big thing that started the controversy that led to the debate. He said, well, it's just so.
Now he's talking about Bill Nye's little PSA thing that he talked about how creationism is ruining science education in the United States, which I both agree and disagree with. Like, most of the United States is actually not in danger of having a significant amount of creationist influence. However, there are parts of the country that are, like Texas. So,
and my state.
Yeah, Louisiana. So, it's a regional problem in the United States, but it's a serious problem where it is a problem. Now, like, if you're in, like, Massachusetts or Washington, D.C., or Washington State, for that matter, or, like, California, it's probably not going to be...
North of the Mason-Dixon.
California isn't north of the Mason-Dixon. It's west of the Confederacy.
West of the Mason-Dixon.
Yeah, basically. I mean, the Mason-Dixon line, even though it is supposed to be, like, a north to south line, it doesn't extend all the way to the Pacific coast, so... Yeah.
Oh, fortunate that this is only an American phenomenon, that thank goodness it's only Americans where we've got these creationists. No, he knew Ken Ham was from Australia.
Okay.
Okay. However, do you want to go first? Okay.
Oh yeah, I was going to say there's a double-edged thing here, right? Like, so for one thing, Bad Jackson is right. Creationists do come from many places, right? Not just the United States. There are Canadian creationists. There are Australian. There are British. There are people in, like, Denmark, Sweden. I've heard of creationist organizations in Latin America. I know of Greek creationists. I've heard of Russian creationists. Like, it's not a uniquely United States phenomenon. However, it is almost unheard of outside of the United States to actually have creationism be powerful enough to influence school board decisions. That is an almost entirely uniquely American problem, to the point that, like, I do think it's fair to say that it's a uniquely American problem, that there are creationists who have enough influence and enough popularity that they're actually able to influence school board decisions. Now, fits of intercontinental ballistic volcano rage for $2 says, does using the wrong ancient language equal humble brag? Well, first, Arabic isn't an ancient language. But maybe, I don't know. Does knowing Arabic better than Hebrew count as a humble brag? Is that a humble brag? Jackson, what do you think?
I mean, you are also the guy who said it takes you like 2 weeks to learn a Romance language, so I don't want to hear it from you.
Well, that's because Romance languages are easy once you know one of them.
I don't know. I mean, I guess not.
I mean, I would still need a dictionary handy.
I mean, I was just thinking. No, I mean, to answer your question, I guess not.
Okay, and that's to
not like
that's to read, not to speak. I can't speak it in 2 weeks. I'll be able to read it in 2 weeks, though. So, all right, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. And that's okay. You know what? I'm allowed to humble brag every once in a while. That's my channel. I do what I want. I'm like Hartman.
True.
That Creation Ministries International had been founded in Brisbane, Australia.
Actually, Answers in Genesis was founded and then later split into Answers in Genesis, which is what's in America, and Creation Ministries International, which didn't get to keep the name in a divorce. And that was a rather vitriolic divorce, which included accusations of witchcraft and necrophilia, which is
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and demon possession. I can't forget the demon possession. All centered around one woman, by the way, who was supposed to be the demon-possessed necrophiliac witch. Which is just like, oh, okay. That's...
Got a lot going on.
Yeah. What I want to know is, did she actually do something that caused this, or was this just made up? And if she did, what? Like, what in the world did she do? Because I'm hoping it's not the things that I'm thinking of that would cause those accusations to be reasonable. But, like...
He incurred the wrath of Ken Ham.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically. It's probably just telling Ken Ham that he was bad for the organization, which is really what precipitated it, right? Like, AIG's, like, international arm sent Ken Ham to America to start AIG America. And they didn't like that AIG America was becoming a cult of personality around Ken Ham, and so they wanted to remove him. And he was just like, no, I'm going to take all your stuff in America, and I'm going to start my own AIG without blackjack and hookers, because we're a good Christian organization.
He knew they had branch offices in Japan. He knew about Look, it's almost impossible to find any Japanese person who has any belief in the supernatural at all. Never mind a young Earth creationist Japanese person. I'm not saying they don't exist, but it's sort of like... it's sort of like... Okay, Jackson. If I were to ask you, hey, what country would I go to find Afrikaans speakers?
South Africa.
Okay, but aren't there Afrikaans speakers in other places, Jackson?
No, fake news.
Yeah,
so they're not real Afrikaans. They're fake Afrikaans.
Oh, sure, but like it's the same kind of deal, right?
The rituals.
It's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, you can find a scattered creationist here and there around the world. That doesn't really negate the idea that it's a largely American phenomenon and it's a uniquely American problem. As a problem, it's uniquely American. The Japanese education system is not currently in any danger from AIG Japan.
The Islamic creationists, like, import American creationism over there. They don't make it up, or most of them don't make it up whole cloth. Like, Harun Yahya was not coming up with all this stuff. He was getting, like, Creation Ministries International stuff.
Yeah.
And which is, American. So this is silly. This is a silly argument.
In fact, actually, disappointingly, I recently did, it's on Early Access, the 3-part series on a Orthodox rabbi, and I was hoping that he would have, like a unique take on creationism. And he wasn't a young earther, but like he grabbed a whole bunch of his stuff that was just like straight out of like Jeff Tompkins and like Stephen Meyer, and I was just like, oh. Okay, so you're also just parasitic on Christian creationism. That's great. Yeah. For $2, Goop 3 says, with communion wine and angels. Yes. Actually, I would go ahead and bet that Ken Ham's church does not use wine. I would suspect they use grape juice. He seems like a grape juice for communion. Stuff. Yeah. Yeah, never mind that according to the Gospels, Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine. After everyone was already at least buzzed, and then everyone was like, oh, you brought the good stuff after we all got buzzed. Interesting. Like, you read that in context, and it's just like, no, this is about a drunken wedding party, and Jesus brought the good stuff.
I cannot help but see that as, like, in Family Guy animation.
Hey, that works for me. It's kind of a Family Guy story, if I'm being honest.
Like, whoa, look at that, Jesus got the good stuff.
Asteriu from 499 says, AIG Japan is the absolute least of the Japanese school system's problems. Yeah, no, like, overworking students with, like, 14 hours a day of homework is a bigger problem for them. Yeah, Japan has a overworking problem. That's true. Dean Wing says, Kent says that wine was just grape juice. Yeah, he does like to say that.
Welcome, Shevin. And other German, the Werner Gitt in Germany, in Britain, Paul, I forget, and Emil Silvestru, the Romanian world expert on caves. He knew about these things, but he still said...
I doubt very much that he knew about all those names. I really do. I don't think that Bill Nye knew about a creationist cave guy from Romania. I really don't. And I would like it if Charles Jackson could back that up a little bit. Because right now, he's gone from Here are creationists that Bill Nye knew existed, like Ken Ham, who he knew weren't Americans, to just listing off non-American young Earth creationists. And those are not the same thing, right? you can't just equate those two things. Let's see. Heather Kuhn for $2 says Harun Yahya makes Hoban look smart. Yeah, well,
he sure does.
Also, he was once sentenced to orders of magnitude more jail time than Kent ever was, but I think he actually ended up getting out on some weird technicality. I hope he goes back in, because he was definitely hosting leading a cult that did some unsavory things with little girls.
Wait, he didn't go to jail for a millennium?
Well, he went there for a while, and then he got out on some weird technicality that overturned part of his conviction or something. But I think they're trying to put him back in prison for other charges. Yeah. He was sentenced to prison for 1,000+ years.
Yeah.
Turkey likes to do that. They like to give out these ridiculous sentences.
Said that Bill Nye lied. And I
don't think it's fair to say that Bill Nye lied, although I can see why it might be a take that you would go for. And again, I'm not here to defend Bill Nye, so yeah, maybe he lied.
He's a very good communicator, a very good teacher, but I think he broke the cardinal sin of any teacher is deliberately...
Want to talk about breaking the cardinal sin of teaching, Charles Jackson, you of all people? Come on.
Yeah, let's just drink for how stupid that is, given that Charles Jackson knows very well what evolution is, and we've already heard him say things like, hey, bacteria evolving antibacterial resistance is an evolution, even though it literally is. So yeah, we'll take a drink for that. Okay. And let's continue on.
Lying to advance his agenda. I'm sorry, but Bill Nye has fallen from teacher grace, whether you believe in God or not. And
what? That is a lot of projection. Just so much projection, given how much stuff that we've heard Charles Jackson say that it's very hard to conclude that he doesn't know better about, right?
Also, want to point out he was never a teacher. He just had a show where he did science communication, and it was people liked it.
Yeah, he wasn't formally employed as a teacher at a school. I think Charles Jackson is speaking broadly, as in that his job was to teach people science on TV, which it's a weird way to put it, but I mean that was his job, or is, I don't know. Vadim Slamovsky Radchenko says, why Bad Jackson sounds so drunk today? I think he's just emotional. I think that's it.
He's really mad that Bill Nye is more popular than him. That's what it is.
I mean, yeah, there's probably some of that, right? Yeah. He went to the member measuring moment, and his member didn't measure up.
And has violated the teacher trust thing. I'm very angry with him for that.
Oh, no.
Not so much for being an evolutionist, an anti-creationist, but for lying. He's Bill Nye the Lion guy. I know I could get in trouble for being mean to him, but what he did was, in teacher terms...
the most 12-year-old thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it kind of is.
What you are, you're Bill Nye the Lion guy.
Yeah.
Got him. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Rush Limbaugh making up cutesy names for people he doesn't like kind of thing.
Yeah.
The unpardonable sin, and he continues to do it merely because he's advancing an agenda. Does the end justify the means? I don't think so. And it shouldn't on the creationist side either, folks, or on a religionist side, or a theologian side, or a scientist side, or an atheist side. It just doesn't. We've got to go for
what are you even talking about?
What is truth, what is work.
Basically, so this whole thing was about what it means to be a teacher in light of the creation evolution controversy that creationists like to imagine exists. Because, it's on the same level as the flat earth versus globe earth controversy. Right. It's only controversial because people who are very obviously wrong and who have absolutely no scientific standing in terms of what they're trying to talk about, like to make noise, right? But it's... They're part of the conversation in the same way that some guy who breaks into the back room of an orchestra and has a kazoo and one of those spinny sound makers and just pops out on stage during a concert and just starts blasting the kazoo and spinning the noisemaker as fast as possible is part of the orchestra. Right?
I just foresee Charles Jackson doing that now.
I mean, it's basically what he's doing. He's just like, I'm here, and he's playing on the kazoo like he's doing like the Bad Avengers theme. While he's spinning the little noise cracker around as fast as he can. And like everyone else is like, hey, we're doing like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony here in like a big orchestral kind of a symphony. No, you're just going to keep doing the Avengers theme with the noise cracker on a kazoo?
Called security? They're on the way.
Yeah, and so like that's the kind of participation creationists actually have in this conversation for the most part, at least when they're advocating for their creationist nonsense. That's not to say the creationists can't and don't do actual scientific work. They do, right? But it's never related to creationism, because whenever they do that, they make so many blatant mistakes with their science that it would never, ever get through peer review. So, yeah. All right, here we go.
Work. What has reason to it that you can apply to the situation, not a bunch of politics speak or opinionated speak, which is very, very hard to separate anymore.
Charles Jackson is always strictly about the science, never about politics or culture wars or lying about science. Never.
Never happens.
Nope.
People think because someone like Bill Nye or Carl Sagan or Neil deGrasse Tyson says it, or Stephen Hawking, that it's got to be true.
I mean, that's not how science works, but it is not completely unreasonable as a heuristic device for areas in which you're not an expert to trust the people who are widely acknowledged in a field as experts, right? So, for example, if you found that your car was having trouble, and you found that, lo and behold, the world's most famous auto mechanic happened to be in your town, and for some reason he was charging prices that you could afford, and so you go to that auto mechanic, and he tells you what he thinks is wrong with your car. And you're not a big car guy, right? You don't really know how to diagnose this problem. But he's the world's leading expert on diagnosing car troubles. You're probably going to believe him. Yeah. Similarly, most people aren't evolutionary biologists or population geneticists or astronomers or physicists or geologists or nuclear physicists, right? So, when a leading mind in a field, or all the leading minds in a field, reach a consensus, it's reasonable to believe them. Now, if you have something that you really care about within one of those areas, right? Like, Jackson, you're going for like organismal biology for your master's thesis, right? Yeah. So you're no longer really in a position where, for organismal biology, you just have to take the word of the experts, right? You can check.
Yeah.
And similarly, if you become a really well-read layman, you can also check, right?
Doing that just yesterday.
Yeah. And look, well-read laymen can take positions that are contrary to the experts, and sometimes end up being right. That's a thing that can happen, right? But like for most people, for most things, you're just going to have to take the word of the experts. That doesn't mean that that's how science works. Now, science works because the people who are actually the experts are all debating amongst themselves about what conclusions can be reached reasonably from the data that are present. So Charles Jackson is basically just confusing how science actually works with the heuristic of trusting expert knowledge that most people have to use to get through daily life and figure out more or less what's true. That's all that is. So.
Well, these people, in their own honestness, might actually be the first to admit that, well, no, just because I said it doesn't make it true. But people have put that mantle of high priest of truth on anyone.
I'm just going to take a drink for high priest with science, because science is obviously your religion. Because that way, any critiques of religion, he can just bounce back at science. And it's not just religion in general, but even his religion specifically, right? Like, if you have a critique for Christianity, he can be like, well, science is also just a religion. Even if it's not a critique against religion generally. Because, hey, spoiler alerts, not all religions are Christianity. In fact, not all Christianities are his version of Christianity. Like, if you want to say, like, oh, hey, here are like 8 different reasons why substitutionary penal atonement is stupid, that's a criticism against his religion, and he might come back with, like, well, your beliefs are just as religious. It's not even a criticism against Christianity. It's literally just a criticism of some kinds of Christianity. Now, it's majority Christianity in terms of number of people, but, like, still, it's not all Christians. So yeah, we'll take a drink. And DM Teriyaki Flavored Arcwing for $2 says, Young Earth creationists only care what people believe, not science. I mean, to some extent, yeah, that does seem to be the case. Although we do have to be careful, because we don't want to use the word believe as if it were some kind of synonym for believe on faith or believe dogmatically. So remember, believe just means something that you think is true, right? So, like, I believe there's beer in my glass. I have extremely good evidence for it, right? Because I poured beer out of a beer bottle. I can taste the beer. You know, I think I know that there's beer. But knowledge is a subset of belief. Savage answers in Yaoist Cobra for $5, which, by the way, Savage Cobra got me a keyboard from my wish list, and I think also might be the person who got me the prickly pear cactus syrup that was also on my wish list. I don't know, because that one didn't seem to come with a separate card. So, thank you very much. Let's see. Says, the chance that this is for $5, says, the chance that Bad Jackson will be right on a scientific question is less than random chance. That's true. Yeah, he's more often wrong. Alex Markle says, I'm sorry, substitutionary what? Substitutionary penal atonement is the idea that Jesus paid the legal penalty for your sins by dying on the cross, and that God had this, like, legal ledger against everyone, and that Jesus' sacrifice is basically, like, clearing that debt that you owe God, right? Savage answers in Yaoist Cobra says, not all Christianities are Orthodox. Ironically, the Eastern Orthodox and the other Oriental Orthodox and whatnot churches are actually among the churches least likely to emphasize substitutionary or penal atonement in their theology. So, weirdly enough, the groups that self-identify with the word Orthodox are actually less likely to accept Jackson's soteriology. So, you know. Anyway, that's more theology than I usually talk on these.
Who is wearing a lab coat, has a doctoral degree, is called Doctor this or Doctor that, which Bill Nye is not.
Yeah, Bill Nye is an aeronautical engineer who has he has a master's degree, but, like, he doesn't call himself a scientist. He's literally the science guy.
Yeah, he's a scientist the same way I'm a paleontologist, which is to say he's not. He's just educated. And I'm going to take a drink because Bad Jackson is right. Bill Nye is not a doctor. We'll take a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Marcos thought I said something significantly more lewd. Well, let's hope not, because, like, my last two... let me double check that. Because I know that 2 live streams in a row got demonetized. Let me make sure it's the most recent 2. No, actually, one of them got my monetization back on, yeah. So the stream with Kip Davis was demonetized, but I requested a review and it got remonetized, so that's good. But the last Matt with Maddie is still demonetized. I've been having a run of bad luck with demonetization. Like Kent with Bent 118 was demonetized.
Oh no.
Kent with Bet 114 was demonetized. Yeah, it happens. Goop23 for $2 says, AIG is a bag of penals. Okay. We'll take a drink for that. Nice. There we go. Oh yeah, and Fearmonger points out that Charles Jackson's doctorate is in education, not in any kind of science. So anytime Charles Jackson tries to flex his degrees on an actual scientist, it just falls flat. Because it's like, oh, what was the degree in again? And look, I'm not, like, denigrating education degrees, right? It's just that he tries to pretend that it gives him qualifications and it doesn't.
He says, I am a doctor. And he said in Genesis Apologetics, wasn't it? Or sorry, not the Is Genesis History. He was like, well, I have 4 degrees? Most evolutionists only have 3. And it's like,
that was an actual quote.
Yes. However, it's an education, sir, and you're talking about paleontology and biology. So let's remember where we are.
Yeah, and also DM Teriyaki Flavor Wing for $2 says, only those with doctorates are worth listening to, with the rolling eyes emoji. Yeah, there's also that, like, why are you trying to, like, I don't know, like, just flex on degree having? Turns out having a degree doesn't make you right or wrong. It just means that you have the training necessary to do a lot of the work. But even then, I mean, if you're like self-taught, that's fine too, right? There's no degree requirement to publish in scientific journals.
I'm sure that like if you were to ask Charles Jackson to like, help you work out a way to like explain some material to an audience and help them learn it, he'd probably be pretty good at that.
Yeah, probably.
If he weren't lying about it.
Even if he were, he would
pretty
be
good at that.
Even if he were, he'd probably be good at getting them to remember the lie.
That's probably true. Yeah, because that's what he's trained in.
Yeah,
that's his field.
Yeah, his expertise is in getting information, true or not, into other people's brains. Which, I mean, that's a valuable skill. It's important that we have people that know how to do that. So, all right, here we go.
Or is put up as a spokesman of science. Science is just a body of knowledge, and the scientist.
And a method for gathering that knowledge.
I don't like saying that science is a body of knowledge. I don't like that. I don't think of like I don't know. I think of science, I think of like the methodology rather than the facts.
Yeah, well, the facts are ultimately like the least important part of science, right? The facts are just the data, right? And okay, great, that's important, right? It's vital. But like what's more important are things like the hypotheses and theories that you can test based on the data or based on collecting new data. The data are just, whatever you happen to collect as your observations. That's great and all, and it's important and it's necessary. But like you want to know, like, hey, is this hypothesis correct? Can we add it to this theory? Does this new observation disrupt our theoretical framework for whatever it is? Now, it is true that in common parlance, science also includes the body of knowledge derived via the scientific method. But yeah, I'm with Jackson on this. When I think of the word science, I primarily think of scientific methodologies for gaining information. And as Zach B. Hancock points out, yeah, theories in science are everything. Yeah, that's the most important part. But he can't say that, though, because evolution is a theory just as much as, universal gravitation or the oxygen theory of fire or germ theory. So if he just goes with that, that might be a problem.
Are supposed to stick to objective truth in the scientific method whenever they can. I don't know, Chris, there, you got me on a rant.
No,
this is our host who's doing the interview. We call him Round Face because his face is extremely round. It's not a criticism, it's just true.
There's a platonic circle.
Yeah, basically. And he's got like the biggest NPR voice. It's listen. I'll hit play and you can listen to his NPR voice.
I really enjoyed everything that you said. It reminded me of a few different experiences that I've had. We're going to get into one of those. You mentioned Neil deGrasse Tyson. We're going to get into that question later on in the interview. You reminded me when you were sharing about the students. I have a friend of mine who also is named Christopher. When he went to his university, there was a teacher. This is a philosophy teacher. Right out of the gate.
Hey, there are good philosophy teachers out there.
No, anytime I hear like a creationist say a philosophy teacher, I get like the Nam flashbacks from God's Not Dead.
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, with Kevin Sorbo as the worst caricature of an atheist imaginable.
He said, and right out the gate, and I was like, holding my breath right now.
Okay, well, look, if this is actually him remembering watching God's Not Dead instead of actually remembering a thing from his life, we take a drink. So if this greatly resembles the opening of God's Not Dead, yeah, we're taking a drink for that.
I'll actually have alcohol if it is.
She was just like, she said a lot of like the usual kind of anti-Christian political things, but then shifted.
Is the anti-political Christian thing like, hey, don't mistreat LGBTQ people? Is that one of the anti-Christian political things?
No, it's literally the teacher or the professor was like, hey, there are philosophies that exist other than just Christianity. Anti-Christian.
That might also be it. Yeah, goodness. Look, I'm not going to say that there's no anti-Christian sentiment out there. But certain kinds of people in America who are Christian who seem to just really, really want to be oppressed, just pretend that just about any kind of disagreement counts as like oppression or hatred. And my advice is like, hey, it's okay to be a submissive. Just go find, a willing dominant and go have fun that way. And then you don't have to bring your weird, like, oppression fetish into public life. You can just keep that between you and your dom, and there you go. It'll be fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Like, why'd you start a class on philosophy with politics? But then she shifted from politics to, okay, so in this classroom, basically, we'll tolerate everything except Christianity.
Yeah,
just
no,
God's not
that's
dead.
just God's
It's
not
just
dead. Yeah,
God's
we're
not
taking
dead.
it. My goodness. Jackson, do I have to wait for you to go get like a beer or some vodka or something? You toss some vodka in your drink?
Do it after the show.
Okay. Yeah, that's just.
Oh my god!
That's,
It's literally just the plot of God's Not Dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we've gender swapped the professor. Yeah, it's not Kevin Sorbo now; it's Karen Sorbo. That's all that's happening. Like, goodness.
And so Christianity is enemy number one on the public universities. It's amazing that.
Look, I went
a direct quote.
I went to a public university. Christianity was not public enemy number one in any of the classes that I took.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Look, if you've been to public university and the number one focus of every class was being down on Christianity, please let me know in the chat. Make sure you tag me, because I would be fascinated to hear that story. Because for one thing, that's basically illegal, right?
That is. That's targeting, yeah.
And for another thing, it's entirely inappropriate, and any professor who did anything like that should be immediately reported to, like, administration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of thing that even
dean.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that even with like a pretty good like union for like the teaching staff, that'll still result in some serious problems, even with tenure, right? Because that's like like legal liability kind of stuff, right? Tenure doesn't protect you from doing things that bring legal liability on the school as a general rule. It's not like
a lot of people seem to think like, yeah, once you get tenure, you're like untouchable, but it's like, no.
No. Yeah, you can't really be touched for like your academic work, even if you go into weird nutbaggery. But if you start doing things like harassing students or breaking the law while doing your job, yeah, that's the kind of thing that tenure is not going to help you with. Savage Answers in Yahweh's Cobra for $5 says, if you think there is no overlap between philosophy and politics, you don't know enough to be having the conversation. Good point. Yeah.
I think you even said in another one of your...
Maybe he didn't realize there was a political philosophy class. They go in.
That
like,
could be, yeah.
I'm taking this philosophy class. Why is everyone talking about politics?
Oh, that actually wouldn't surprise me that much.
That'd be hilarious.
It really would. Plus, also, like, I took an intro to philosophy. Like, I took, I think, 3 or 4 philosophy courses over the course of my degree. And one of them was, like, an intro to philosophy course. And it covered political philosophy, right? Like, here's an overview of some various political philosophy positions, how they justify different kinds of, like, political structures or fail to do so, things like that, right? Like, it wasn't like, oh, if you think that the, marginal tax rate should be any lower than, 42%, then you're a bastard. Like, that wasn't it, right? But it was things like, like, how do democracies justify their existence? How do various autocracies do that? What does it mean for a state to actually exist as such? Like the territorial monopoly on the initiation of violence, recognition from other state entities, things like that, right? Like, those were the things that we talked about. Is that political? I mean, yeah, it is, but that's still part of philosophy.
Lectures that you gave at a church, that the devil, he knows what the truth is. And so he doesn't care if he's got you over here, if he's got you over here, if he's got you over here. You just can't have the truth. See, that's why it's like, we'll take anything else. We'll take all the other religions or all the other political views, but Christianity, now that was public enemy number one in the university.
I'm just taking another drink.
Yeah, it does seem, I was speaking at USAO in Oklahoma, and there was some...
It is always amazing to me the degree to which fundamentalist evangelical Protestantism has a hegemony in the United States and the degree to which they pretend that they are the most persecuted group in the United States.
Yep.
And it's just like, hey man, how many metal detectors do you need at your churches? Because I'll tell you, there's some synagogues with metal detectors, and for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
but also, if like any politician like missteps, and if they even say they're not Christian, you're not getting into very high public office.
Yeah, it's really hard. There are a few
it's
places.
Just not gonna happen.
There are a few places where you can get in with a few other Abrahamic religions. Like there's some Muslim and Jewish members of the legislature in the United States, but like you're not going to be the president. Like yeah, you can get in. You can get into the House of Representatives, maybe the Senate, but like yeah, you're still not even probably going to be like governor. You basically have to be a Christian if you want to get into really, really high positions of power.
Dapper, they're so persecuted. Oh,
yeah,
so much persecution.
Yeah, it's one of the least persecuted groups about it. It's actually one of the most privileged groups imaginable. Right now, that's not to say that there isn't anyone out there who has a, even to an irrational degree, hatred of evangelical fundamentalist Christians.
100%. Yep.
But to pretend that you are the one thing that the entire United States hates is just completely insane.
I mean, there are parts of the world, yeah, where you would be in like actual danger.
Yeah.
Point out that you're a Christian, but in the U.S., no. Come on.
Yeah, go. I mean, feel free to try to practice your religion openly in Saudi Arabia. Go for it. That'll be a problem for you. But like, yeah, you're in the United States, man. You're doing just fine. Just the fact that you can influence school boards on its own. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, when was the last time we had to fight against, like, I don't know, Muslims trying to make sure that everyone accepted the moon splitting idea as a real historical event for a school board in the United States, right? It just doesn't happen, right? Aster Ryu for $4.99 says, Christianity is so oppressed, people place even Islam above us. Read the pledge, Jackson. Like every 6 to 18-year-old student has to. Yeah. And Captain Rider points out, or the DPRK. Yeah. Don't try to, too openly practice any religions in the DPRK. That's going to be a bad time for you.
There's the Atheist Club there, and one girl proudly said during question and answer period, well, I'm only intolerant of people who are intolerant.
Yeah, that's the paradox of intolerance, which is to say that you can tolerate many things, but if you tolerate intolerance, then intolerance grows and you lose your tolerant society. So, yeah.
We've was it on this channel? I can't remember what it was, but it's the like the Nazi bar principle. So it's the principle of the Nazi bar. If you allow Nazis to come to your bar, then people who don't feel safe around Nazis, which is most people, are going to progressively disappear. Mm-hmm. Nazis take over your bar. So yes, you have to be intolerant of them because they will be intolerant of other people. So yeah.
Savage answers in Yahweh's Cobra for $2 says, or he could just pull out his wallet. All right, here we go.
And I said, "What? Then that means you're intolerant." She goes, "No, it doesn't." I said, "Yes, it does."
Oh my goodness. I'm just taking a drink for Charles Jackson has never heard of the paradox of tolerance. Like, it's pretty basic, man.
I thought you were taking a drink because she said nuh-uh, and he said, yeah, huh?
Well, I mean, there's that too, but it comes down to just like, oh, Charles Jackson, not only have you not heard of the paradox of tolerance, you're confused by it now that you've encountered it. Okay. Great.
It used confusion, was super effective.
Yeah, basically. Oh my goodness, you mean that a tolerant society can't literally tolerate absolutely everything? Oh my goodness, next you'll be telling me that you can't be tolerant if you don't tolerate mass murder. Maybe we should set that guy from Waukesha, Darrell Brooks, free because we're being intolerant by locking him up forever. Yeah, that makes sense.
You're the one that's deciding who's intolerant, and I don't know how you're going to decide it.
When you don't tolerate activities that do not themselves hinder the activities of others that are not, basically if other people are minding their own business and not affecting your life, and you are intolerant of that, you're the intolerant. It's not very complicated, right? So, for instance, and remember, tolerance doesn't mean endorsement, right? You're allowed to tolerate things without endorsing them. You're even allowed to tolerate things while saying, I think that's bad and shouldn't be done, right?
Even allowed to retweet things without endorsing them.
Mm-hmm. So, if you find out that your neighbor, say, is gay and is going on, say it's a guy and he's going on dates with other guys and maybe bringing them home occasionally, and you're like, that's not okay. I want to write a law to prevent him from doing that. You're being intolerant. Now, if you just say, I don't like that, but then you just mind your own damn business, then you're being tolerant. That's fine. But the fact is, he's not invading your house to go do his various romantic or sexual things, right? He's over in his house doing it on his own. You're not involved. You're being intolerant. If you then try to use any kind of coercion or force, even at the ballot box, because, let's be honest, while we can all sit here and say, well, we don't like political violence, all laws are enforced at the barrel of a gun, ultimately. So even trying to get laws passed against this behavior is ultimately, when it comes down to it, at least the threat of violence. So if you're the one doing that, when that person is minding their own business, you're the one who's intolerant. It's very simple. Now, at the risk of getting more political than I usually allow myself to, yeah, that also includes drug prohibitions. The fact that someone's doing meth down the street, that's not your problem. Trying to enact or enforce laws to stop them from doing that when they're not hurting other people is in fact intolerant and probably shouldn't be tolerated. It's probably why I wouldn't have gotten onto that jury even if I'd had to go to jury duty tomorrow. Yeah. Anyway.
But you're going to be intolerant of them. I never said that. And the whole audience
yeah, she kind of did. That's just her getting riled up, if the story is even true.
said, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Yeah, that part there sounds like something that didn't happen. We'll take a drink right there. That sounds like an everybody clapped moment. Okay. Man, I already got more theological and more political than I usually get on this stream. I should.
Because I'm here.
Or it's because that martini I had, like a couple hours ago.
What I'm hearing is we need to put more martinis in you.
I'll tell you what. You show up with gin, and I will make martinis. How's that?
You're halfway, Texas.
No, I'm not going to Texas just for martinis. Not happening. Sorry about that.
But that attitude is seen as completely legit.
Yeah, it is. Imagine realizing that allowing intolerance in your tolerant society means the collapse of tolerance in your society, and then deciding that, yeah, you're going to have to make an exception for intolerance. And then, like, oh, that's seen as absolutely legit. Yeah, it's because it's the only way that people can get along with people with whom they disagree or whom they find objectionable without it coming to blows, whether it be through state apparatus or not. Right? That's how you have a civil society. And the thing is, when it comes to, like, the rhetoric of right-wing politics, which, I mean, let's be honest, this guy's a right-winger, right? Like, I don't think there's any debate about that, right? When it comes to their rhetoric, they're big fans of, like, individualism and individual freedom, and, I'll mind my business, you mind yours, don't tread on me. What all of that means is you should tolerate what I do until it interferes with your free exercise of your rights, too. And when I do something that does interfere with them, that's when you've been tread on. That's when your individual rights have been trampled on. That's when you should object. Charles Jackson is just apparently unaware of the fact that that whole, like, sort of, like, classical liberal ideology that right-wingers like to pretend to believe in, apparently. Although, look, to be fair,
on pretend.
No, that's not fair. There are actual classical liberals who are, on the right wing in the United States. They just don't have any particular amount of power or influence.
Sure.
So, but like that, many of the ones in power, at least, like to pretend to believe in. Jackson here is just completely rejecting it. Why? Well, because it's not coming from a Christian source. and because he doesn't really believe it, as far as I can tell. So, yeah, it's very annoying, especially when I find someone who is on a political side that should, in principle, believe all these things, right? Like, I know people who consider themselves right-wing who are, in fact, pro-marijuana legalization on classically liberal grounds, right? They're like, this is a personal choice about what you do with your body. It's not my business, even if I don't like it.
I think problem number one is we're expecting Charles Jackson to have some semblance of consistency.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, we probably shouldn't be expecting that. But I can still criticize him for not doing it. Also, I realize we're at the halfway point. We've only had 15 drinks. We're going to have to step it up. But in the meantime, we're going to go take a quick intermission. And in that time, you will be serenaded with the wonderful music of Beethoven. And also maybe watch a commercial. Because I want money. That's it. That's the whole reason. Okay, we are back from that break. Thank you very much, everyone, for sticking with me. Those of you who did, which does seem to be most people. Now, before we get right back into it, I want to say that this channel is something that, if you're not aware, I have been trying to do full-time and successfully as of, the last little while. It is something that I really like doing. Don't get me wrong, I have my complaints. There are frustrating bits. There are things I don't like about it. But I have never been happier with a job. I've never been more fulfilled with a job. And part of that is that I'm able to do that primarily through the generosity of my viewers. Now, if you are someone who really likes this channel and you can afford it, and you want to help support the channel so that I can do things like afford a recording booth so that my audio quality can improve a bit, or even just maybe someday get an editor so I don't have to do all of the editing, Or even pay for a more effective rendering solution so I can get my videos rendered faster. Like, there's a whole lot of things that if I had enough money, I would love to do. But that currently, it's a little bit iffy. Or even just like, you know, help me get a pizza for me and Bent every once in a while. Some great ways to help do that are the Patreon and the channel memberships. The Patreon is linked in the description. Channel memberships, there's a join button below this video. Both of those go a long way, and every little bit helps. If you want to just give $1 on Patreon, that's great. Patreon starts at $1. It can go all the way to $100 if you're feeling really, really generous. The memberships start at $1.99, go to $20. You can get a 12% discount if you go annual on Patreon. And if like a monthly or annual thing isn't your thing, but you still want to help out, there's a merch store in the description where you can buy t-shirts, mugs, stickers, all sorts of things like that. And if that's also not your thing, there's a wish list in the description for both me and Bent. Like I said earlier, Savage Cobra got me a keyboard and some prickly pear syrup, which I'm going to be using in a drink. I have some drinks that I like to add prickly pear flavor to, and that can replace both the simple syrup and the prickly pear, and just add add prickly pear. So that's great. Yeah. So there's books. There's recording equipment in there. There's a new monitor since one of my monitors is kind of on the way out. So yeah, there's a lot of options there. And if none of that's right for you, and you just want to support the channel in a non-financial way that still helps out, please make sure you like my videos, watch multiple of my videos in a row if you can, and share my videos with people you think will like them. Now, we have a few things to read off here, one of which is that Savage Answers in Yahwist Cobra has gifted 5 Dapper's Dinosaur memberships. They went to Cat T, D Boop, Chris McDaniel, Steve Weber, and Putting Corpses in Culverts and Corey's knee. So let's take 5 drinks for that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately, that means I just ran out of my beer. So it's time to open another one. I'll take a quick swig out of the actual bottle before I pour it to get to 5. Here's 5. All right, there we go. Now I'll start pouring as I read the other things. Zerolon for $2 says, everyone throw money at Dapper. AIG's a bag of tea. So I'll take another drink for that one. Thank you very much. Zach B. Hancock for $20. Thank you very much, Zach. Says, for pizza! And Savage Answers in Yahwist Cobra for $2 says, I second Zerolon's statement, which, you know what, I think also means that counts as an AIG or a bag of dicks joke. So there's another drink for that, and then I will try to actually pour this beer because I poured like 2 fluid ounces, and I took another couple drinks that I didn't realize that there were more drink triggers, which is also appreciated. Okay. By the way, if you do in fact join the channel memberships or the Patreon, there is a special Discord server just for supporters. I like to hang out a lot there, that you can get a lot of behind-the-scenes thing. And after the Tuesday and Saturday shows, we do a Power Rangers watch party. We're currently on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, and today's 4 episodes that we're going to watch include the In-Space crossover episode, which is one of my favorites because it's the first big 2-team team-up episodes in the series history. So it's a big deal. To me, at least. Yeah. So, Jackson, do you have anything before we get right back into this?
Not particularly.
All right, well then, here's Bad Jackson.
And so you decide who's intolerant, and of course the straw man burned in effigy these days that's the representative of intolerance is the Christian.
Look, here's the thing, right? You don't even have to be accepting to be a tolerant Christian. That's the thing, right? People might not want to be friends with you if you're not accepting, and that's their prerogative, and you don't get to say anything about it because people have freedom of association. But being tolerant means things like not trying to pass laws to interfere with people's lives on the grounds of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Right? That's what tolerance is you leave them alone. You don't interfere with their lives, whether it be personally or politically. You don't have to like it. You don't have to approve of it. You don't have to be friends with anyone who has a sexual orientation or a gender identity that you find icky. You don't have to. The minimum that you have to do to be tolerant is not attempt to obstruct their free exercise of their rights that are unobstructed for you. That's it. I don't think that's a high bar, right? You can continue on to be your bigoted self all day. Go for it. Have fun with it. I don't want to be friends with you, but that's okay. I'm not going to advocate that any of your rights be taken away just on the grounds that you are privately a dick. But once you actually make that a matter of public policy or your own violence, that's when we have a problem. Right? Don't harass people that you don't like for such reasons, right? Don't try to pass laws restricting their rights. Don't attack them. Just go be an asshole privately. That's fine. Zooting for $5 says, for the defense of science. Thank you very much, Zooting. Like, I know this isn't a very science-heavy episode. I don't know. I don't watch these beforehand. But, like, it's really not that hard to be minimally tolerant, right? It's even in the word tolerance, right? Tolerance is what you do with a crying baby on the airplane. You tolerate the crying baby because you just want to get over with your flight. You don't have to like it. You don't have to endorse it. You can even think that people shouldn't bring babies on the airplane. Intolerance is when you start to try to pass laws to ban babies on airplanes. See the difference? I know it's really hard to figure out there, Bad Jackson. And look, obviously, my audience, Good Jackson, you get it. I'm just ranting at Bad Jackson here.
A Christian, for some reason, I don't know, they love Mother Teresa. She's a Christian.
I'm just going to take a drink for just how controversial Mother Teresa is outside of Christianity. Because, ooh, yeah, there's some dark stuff going on in that particular corner of the world. Like, how about denying pain medication to patients because suffering is beautiful and brings you closer to God? Okay. That's great. That's a decision for them to make, not you. If a patient refuses pain medication because they think their suffering is beautiful and bringing them closer to God, great. It's the same thing with like a fast, right? Like various Christian groups undergo fasts at different times, right? Like a common one is Lent, right? Most people have heard of Lent. You know, so we'll go with the Catholic practice of Lent, which I think most people are familiar with, which is basically no meat on Fridays in Lent. Okay, that's fine. You don't want to eat meat on Lent and Fridays? Don't. Just I'm not going to come try to shove a sausage down your throat on Friday. It's fine.
Kinky.
I know, right? Just don't. But if you pass a law saying I'm not allowed to go to McDonald's and order a hamburger on Friday during Lent, now we have a problem. Esther Ryu for $19.99 says, holy cow, this is just Bad Jackson crying that he's being called a bag of eggplants like AIG. We'll take a drink for that right there. So please take my money because I support telling people like this to shove it. Yeah, no, it is... I'm actually kind of offended by the degree to which Charles Jackson here is whining because he's not being allowed to oppress people. Because that's what this is, right? He's like, oh, the fact that I'm not allowed to tell people what to do with their private lives offends me. And I, as a Christian, would like to be able to control other people's lives. Okay, that's great. No. You don't get to. Sorry. Or at least I hope you don't get to. I mean, recent events have made that less clear.
Yeah, but they hate practicing Christians. And why would the devil...
They don't hate practicing Christians. They hate practicing Christians who are trying to enforce their bigotry on other people. Not all practicing Christians are A, bigoted, or B, trying to enforce what bigotry they might have in legal circumstances. That's it, right? Like, there are plenty of, say, affirming churches out there, or churches who aren't taking political stances, and everyone's just like, well, I don't have to like it, but yeah, that's fine. Keep going. Just do your church thing. That's great. Just do whatever. Now, granted, there are people who do in fact object. Like, you know, there's a bunch of anti-theists out there, and sorry if you're an anti-theist, but it's very rare that I find anyone as cringy as the average terminally online anti-theist. But anyway.
Make us his choice target if there wasn't some reason to it. And why is it only Christianity that's the religion?
It's not. It's Christianity primarily because in the United States, it is by far the most powerful religion. And it's specifically a particular brand of Protestant Christianity, right? Like, it's not really like, Lutherans, like the Lutheran Synod Missouri or whatever, right? It's like these Baptists, non-denominationalists, various fundamentalist groups of Protestants, right? That's primarily who it is. To a lesser degree, it's the Catholics. But, like, most people aren't out there like, oh no, the Anglicans are going to ruin everything. You know why? Because the Anglicans have lesbian bishops. They don't care. They're just like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Yeah, you do your thing, right? They're not going to try to force various prohibitions on you because of your whatever sexual preferences that you happen to have. Like, they just don't care. But the thing is, Charles Jackson would say those people don't count as Christians because I actually agree with Creaky Blinder on this. We should probably change the no true Scotsman fallacy to the no true Christian fallacy. Sorry about the motorcycle that's deciding to go around with no muffler out back. Anyway, yeah, it's far more common for Christians to deny that each other are Christians than it is for people to deny that someone's a Scotsman. We should really change it to the no true Christian fallacy. Because, my goodness, it's like, oh, well, they're not a Christian the way I want them to be. Well, that's great. Guess what? You're not the king of Christianity. Not even the Pope is the king of Christianity. He's the king of the Vatican City, though. One of the last absolute monarchies in existence.
Of hate. We're supposedly the religion of hate. Now, some honest atheists will say that all religious thoughts are counterproductive. They're just bad, bad, bad. But
I mean, yeah, that is a thing, and
they believe that.
Yeah, I mean, that is mostly the anti-theist kind of thing. I mean, there are.
Don't think. Yeah. I don't know if all atheists.
Well, to be fair, he said there are some atheists, so he explicitly said that it was not atheists broadly.
There are some, yeah.
Yep.
Most of them will, even if they'll say that, still like bore down with the laser beam on Christianity. Richard Dawkins does that.
Because it's the thing that they come into contact with culturally the most often. Like, I mean, in fairness, he does also talk about Islam. I mean, Sam Harris made like Islam
Sam Harris. Yeah, he went off on Islam quite a bit.
And because like the Four Horsemen, became popular for their critiques on Christianity. But they also, well, Sam Harris in particular, Dawkins to a lesser extent, switched to Islam when attacking Islam became more popular for a bit, because it kind of did.
Well, that whole beheading a journalist in the streets of a major city on the grounds of he drew a cartoon. It tends to rile up some anti-Islamism kind of sentiments.
But I don't know why he's acting like, oh, they never talk about anything else. Well, they do. It's just this is the one that they do most.
Right, because it's the one that they come in contact with. Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't seem like it'd be. I know, it's Charles Jackson, but I feel like that should be pretty easy to realize.
Oh, yeah. And as Vishanti points out, Dawkins is a transphobe. Yeah, I'm not here to defend Dawkins.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
it's just saying. I don't know.
Yeah. In fact, I'm not here to defend any of the Four Horsemen.
Yeah. You definitely can't defend Hitchens.
Yeah, nope. I won't try.
He's dead.
I mean, I could still defend his ideas if I wanted to. I just don't want to.
I have never actually... I have a book by Dennett on my shelf. Have not read it yet. I've not read anything by Dennett. He's the only one.
What kind of atheist are you there, Jackson?
Me?
Yeah. You haven't read Dennett.
He's big into I don't know. I don't.
You're like a non-practicing atheist.
I don't really read the deep philosophy stuff very much, and consciousness is not really something I'm super interested in general. So those are kind of his major areas, and I don't know.
I found out we're actually halfway, or we're more than halfway towards getting the next special avatar video. Which, by the way, guys, so for October, I am doing a spooky theme for the videos that I make in October, which means that if you are a channel member or a patron, you are going to be able to have access to them in October when they come out during Spooky Month. But if you're not, they will be coming out months later when it's no longer Spooky Month, so deal with that. But it does mean that for that month, I will be saving up any special avatar goals that we hit for use starting in November. So there you go. T. Lane, who's been a member for 19 months, says Dawkins equals a bag of AIGs, and then he has the bag of dicks emoji. Yeah, okay. We'll take a drink for that.
Much as I respect his work, yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're here for, like, the Dawkins fan club, you're in the wrong place.
It's even more sad, because I've read 7 of Dawkins' books, and including one, which is, like, just sort of his broad, sort of, like, political, or it includes, like, his political ideas and stuff. It's like, this is a guy who's obviously on the left, and then for him to turn around and be like, but actually, what is a woman? It's like, really? Yeah. Come on, man.
Captain Ryan Ryder says, I heard that Aaron Ra also criticizes Islam. Yeah, I've seen him debate Muslim apologists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. He actually did an interesting debate about is evolution science with a Muslim apologist over in the UK. So, Savage answers in Yahoo Scober for $5 says, AIG is a bag of Richard Dawkins, and I mean that as an insult to both. Oof. Take a drink for that. All right, here we go.
A lot of times he goes, well, I don't believe in Thor. I'm not a Thorist. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any kind of deity. You know, he'll go on and on about that.
Word means.
But then
I would disagree, but I'm not going to get into it.
When he gets, musters up his arguments, he'll go after Christians. He'll go after creation and the monotheistic, the Judeo-Christian.
Yes, the Judeo-Christian. No one ever really defines what really counts as Judeo-Christian. And the reason is because it's just a word that means Christian, but I want to be able to say that I'm not excluding the Jews, really. Because Jewish religion, or Jewish theology, Jewish moral philosophy, and Christian theology and Christian moral philosophy developed largely independently and didn't really influence each other all that much until like the late medieval and early modern periods. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of Christians throughout history after Maimonides were big fans of Maimonides, but you don't get a whole lot of medieval Christians studying Ramban to figure out what were the Jews thinking about various moral philosophical problems. So, yeah.
Doctrines.
Thank you so much for all of the insight that you gave, not just on the teacher-student relationship.
I love every time this guy talks because it just feels like NPR. He's just got that super soft voice that's just easy listening, and he could say anything like that, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Yesterday, the entire country of Gambia was destroyed by an asteroid. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that seems fine. Yeah.
16
but even the
buses
way
full of children went into the river.
Yeah, it's just that smooth, even, easy to listen to, can say any horrible thing, and you're just like, yeah, okay, that seems fine. Yeah.
Teachers or instructors, not even just within universities, but instructors or authority figures outside, even you mentioned religious leaders, if they set themselves up as some kind of god or deity, just because
I've never had a professor who I would say set themselves up as a god or deity. If you have, let me know in the chat. I'll notice that no one said that they had a professor who made Christianity enemy number one in their public university. So I feel like this is also not a thing that's happening.
Professor of theology, so-and-so, that doesn't make them God Almighty. And so there is something that I did want to ask you, though, about that teacher-student...
If they have a degree in theology, yeah, they probably recognize that.
Yeah, I don't... Look, I never took a dedicated theology course in, university, right? I went to a Catholic high school, so we had some theology courses there. None of my theology teachers there thought of themselves as God. But maybe in some seminaries there are, but I really, really doubt it.
Connection. You were a teacher, you are a professor, and so I do think to say that this subject is very close to your heart. Now, there was a presentation you gave. It was called What the Schools Are Teaching. You opened it up by saying, well, after teaching high school for 11 years and teaching college science for 6 years and then teaching 6 years in college, being a science teacher trainer.
But not a science teacher. There's a difference there.
I'm actually one of the few people who is credentialed to critique and to criticize science textbooks.
No.
Look, he might be credentialed to critique and criticize science textbooks for their pedagogical contents, right? Their ability to inform students of their contents, but not for the science. So yeah, we're taking a drink for Charles Jackson basically just lying, because you know that what he's trying to get across is, I am allowed to just critique science textbooks for their contents and what's scientific and what's not. When really all he's credentialed to critique is like their strategies for imparting information. So yeah, we'll take a big old drink for that. Right.
However, we'll say college textbooks are a scam.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
You don't have to buy one. Don't.
Yeah. In fact, look, I'll say this. It is not legal to pirate college textbooks. That being said, there are many locations on the internet which will allow you to do so. Just check. Goop23 for $2 says, I had a teacher like that, but he got crucified. Nice. Thank you. I sure hope not, because that would also be an inappropriate sanction for such a teacher.
Dr. Jackson, do you think that more teachers and professors should be critiquing the material they've been given to work with? And how can teachers help implement positive changes?
Well, I think that all good teachers like to use a textbook, but good teachers will also critique their textbook using their teacher instincts.
I mean, look, this didn't happen to me much in like high school, but when it came time for like college level classes, my professors were all very open about where they disagree with the textbooks, right? Like, now, most of them tried to assign textbooks that they largely agreed with, so it didn't come up a lot. But there were definitely times when my professor was like, look, I know the book says this, but I disagree for these reasons. There you go. Like, it's not a secret that professors disagree with their textbooks. And the part of it is, like, I don't know whether he's primarily trying to target this at, like, college professors, of whether it be for undergrad or, graduate classes or postgrad stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, is that who he's directing this to? Or is he doing, like, K through 12 primary education teachers? That's one of the things that's tricky, right? Because it's a different set of things. When you're doing, like, K through 12 primary education, in the United States at least, you're basically there to get the kids to be well-educated enough to pass the standardized tests that allow them to go on to college, right? It's mostly what you're doing. You're teaching to the test. Get them to pass the test. Okay, cool. That does not allow you for a lot of room for like leeway and like, oh, well, here's my personal take on this. But once you get to your secondary education, once you're getting your bachelor's or master's or doctorate degree, there's a lot more room for those professors to be like, okay, look, this is what the text says. Here's why I disagree. We'll have a big classroom discussion about it. And since he hasn't made clear what he's talking about, I tend to default to him talking about secondary education because that's where learning how and not what to think is the most important, right? Like when you're in, 5th grade, in which, look, I don't know what that is in other countries, sorry. Like, no one's being like, okay, now, why does multiplication work? No, you just need to learn it, right? You don't need to know, like, advanced number theory. Just get to the point where you can do it, you can pass the tests, you can pass the standardized tests, on to the next thing. DM Teriyaki Flavored Arcwing for $2 says, Jackson is the arbiter of science. Eye rolling emoji. Yeah, he does like to think of himself that way. I assume he means
am
bad
the
Jackson.
arbiter of science.
Oh, good Jackson is the arbiter of science, in fact.
I am the arbiter. So my job at work, my actual title is I am the science and conservation coordinator, or science and conservation research coordinator, something like that. So yes, I am the arbiter of science, actually.
All right, well, there you go. So tell me, is string theory science?
Let me consult my committee.
Okay, what about multiverse theory?
I'll probably need to consult the committee.
Simulation theory?
I do simulations on my computer sometimes.
But is all of our reality that we experience actually a simulation running on some computer in a higher reality?
Could be, I guess. I don't know.
But is that science?
I mean, I'm not doing anything methodologically to determine if it's true, so I guess not.
All right, fair enough. You heard it here first, guys. Simulation theory, not science, according to the official arbiter of science, Jackson Wheat.
I remember I was teaching earth science in Fairfax County Public Schools, and I had the students turn to page 138. We were all looking at this. I said, look at this photograph of the Earth from space. And they all looked at it.
It's fake NASA CGI lies.
What's wrong with it? And they looked at it. And finally, they realized someone had put the negative in there backwards. It was a reverse image of what the continents were backwards from where they should be. And I think any good teacher, doesn't have to be a genius or noticing something funny like that. I mean, there was one science textbook that had a picture of Linda Ronstadt labeled as a quartz crystal. But I'm not so much talking about these funny little mistakes as
sometimes
worldview indoctrinations that are in a book.
Yeah, like, oh my goodness, there was a typo. Okay. That's a thing, yeah. Vishanti...
You know where else there was a typo? C design proponents list.
Yeah, that was an interesting typo. Yeah, that was weird. It's a pretty big typo. Kind of helped them lose that whole Kitzmiller v. Dover case.
Yeah.
Vishanti for $2 says, look at this photograph, but like with musical notes, and I'm not sure what that song is supposed to be. And I absolutely know that I will catch flack for not knowing what song this is supposed to be later, because I can guarantee you that Vishanti will send me a message or just actually call to complain to me about not knowing what that song is supposed to be. I'm sorry about that. Asterie for $4.99 says, I mean, yeah, simulation theory is just kind of God exists, but cyberpunk. I mean, not the worst idea for a religion I've ever heard. Yeah, seems interesting at least. Oh, and remember that time that I said that I know that Vishanti will at least message me, if not outright call me? You'll never guess who just sent me a DM on Discord. It's Nickelback. Okay. I don't listen to a lot of Nickelback. Sorry, Vishanti. I don't know what to tell you. I don't remember the last time I listened to Nickelback. Well, I didn't listen to it. I just had a song reference. Savage answers in Yahweh's Cobra for $5 says, another interesting typo, thou shalt commit adultery, Wicked Bible 1631. Yeah, that was a thing that happened. Yeah, the Wicked Bible or the Sinner's Bible that said thou shalt commit adultery. Yeah, it was just a typo. No. Yeah, it happened, but it was just a typo. And not very many of them were printed.
And of course, Christian teachers who have a biblical worldview,
I'm just going to take a drink for the biblical worldview, which means young earth creationist worldview, according to this guy. And we'll explain that after I finish this drink. Here's the thing. Young earth creationists do not have a monopoly on interpretation of the Bible. They don't have a monopoly on creationism. They don't have a monopoly on theology. They don't have a monopoly on anything except... Nope, not anything. People who are not young earth creationists, right? People who have... like old earth creationist or theistic evolutionist interpretations of the Bible. Those people aren't less biblical, right? They're just not biblical in the way that Charles Jackson would like them to be. But guess what? That's okay. They can do that. Charles Jackson doesn't have some objective standard that he can judge them by, right? He has his own heuristic, but the problem is that young earth creationist heuristics for, like, determining what kind of hermeneutics are appropriate for biblical interpretation are themselves internally incoherent. Like, oh, we have to take Genesis very literally. Well, until it says the floodgates of heaven. That's a metaphor. Why? I don't know. It just is. You know why? Because they know that they can't actually go with, like, the flat earth interpretation of Genesis that is actually demanded by a literal reading. That's why. It's too ridiculous even for them. Ren has just joined the channel at the amniote level. Everybody send tetrapods and don't send pelagic tunicates, send sessile tunicates. So sessile tunicates and tetrapods. Thank you very much, Ren. Welcome to the channel at the amniote level. By the way, if you were gifted a channel membership today, please make sure to go to Discord, go to your settings. There should be something called, like, connections. You want to add your YouTube account to that, and it will automatically put you in the server. So, Bent, how dare you? And I was seriously considering getting a pizza to share, and then you send pelagic tunicates, so you know what that means? No, I won't get a pizza. Or if I do, I'll eat all of it myself.
Perhaps a biblical creationist, a young earth creationist, biblical literalist worldview have really...
Even young earth creationists aren't biblical literalists, unless they're flat earthers. The flat earthers are the only intellectually consistent biblical literalists. Sorry. Because they're also all almost, or at least they're also almost all, young earth creationists. If you want to be an intellectually consistent young earth creationist, go be a flat earther. Yeah, if you're not a flat earther, then I'm just going to reject out of hand your claims to be a biblical literalist. Sorry. Also, sorry to MC Toon, who likes to pretend that the Bible does not strongly imply a flat earth if you read it literally. He's just wrong on that one. And his favorite tactic is to just use modern English translations, which mistranslate the original Hebrew in order to import modern cosmological understandings into an ancient Near East cosmology that had no knowledge of such things. Which is... Look, I don't have any beef with Toon here, but, like, it is one of my pet peeves with his content, is that he, despite being a Christian, will allow mistranslations of the Bible to stand in order to counter the Bible is a flat earth, or has flat earth ideas in it. Idea. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of that.
They got to keep their antennas up and continue scanning any textbook they're using, even if it's supposedly made by Christians. It might have some indoctrination stuff in there that you might not want. It might have some over-the-top errors or urban myths that are purported by church folk that make us all look bad. Or it may actually have some evolutionary thinking that has gotten in there. And
that's just science, but okay.
Some of the concession theories or compromise theories in there. As far as me being qualified to critique textbooks,
which again, he's only qualified to critique the degree to which they succeed at transferring information into the minds of students. He is not qualified to critique the actual scientific contents of science textbooks.
Because of my doctoral degree in science education, that I'm sort of a card carrying.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a drink for him continuing to try and, like, big dick his way through I'm an expert on everything because I have one degree, not in a relevant field. This stream is definitely getting demonetized. Between Good Jackson here saying the word Nazi like 18 times and me saying big dick his way, like, yeah, we're not getting monetized.
Not bad. Sorry, G.
It happens.
Textbook evaluator. That makes me officially credentialed to critique textbooks. But I think...
What does that mean? What body is there that officially credentials people to critique textbooks? Is there a Textbook Critiquers of America Society?
Might be.
I'm taking a drink. That was... You're not officially anything there, Charles Jackson.
In general, like, people who have actual expertise in something don't usually announce that they have expertise. Like, the record kind of shows for itself, you know?
Yeah. It's sort of like what Tywin Lannister said to King Joffrey. Any man who has to say, I am king, isn't a king. was a Game of Thrones reference back from when Game of Thrones was a good show. Yeah.
Any good teacher from preschool all the way through secondary and post-secondary is going to naturally, look a little carefully at any book or any resource they're using, and actually look for a teachable moment, like I did with the picture of the Earth, to sharpen students' own baloney detectors or their own fine-tooth comb. It could be a learning moment.
That
but
part's
also
fair. I'll take a drink.
To look for, filter out the opinion versus the facts, the theory versus the proven or evidented scientific principles. Any good teacher is going to evaluate any materials that they use.
I mean, yeah, that's the ideal. I just don't think that a good teacher will evaluate them in the way that Charles Jackson would want them to. But Olivia Williams for $6.99 Beaver Bucks says, well, let me help because of not being monetized with a Ghidorah. So we'll take a big old drink for Ghidorah. Thank you, King Ghidorah. And thank you, Olivia Williams. I'm hoping that there's more good Ghidorah. Like, I would like the new Godzilla movie to spawn more movies within its continuity. Because it's been a long time since we had a Godzilla movie from Japan that was actually a direct sequel to another Godzilla movie from Japan other than the first one. Yeah, like the entire, not the Heisei era, what is it? The Reiwa era was all, or not the Reiwa, the Millennium movies. They were all like unconnected except for like two, the Kiryu saga. But also, Vishanti has just gifted a membership which went to Chesh, which apparently is not who Vishanti was trying to give a membership to. So we'll take a drink there for that membership to Chesh. But Dr. Tapioca Weasel has also gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Zach B. Hancock, Jillian Wren is not a Breatharian, Eric Davis, Robert Carpenter, and John Garrow. So let's take 5 drinks for that. Thank you very much. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once again, that polishes off another beer. On to the third beer. In case you're wondering, the word for third in Klingon is Wejdich. It's W-E-J-D-I-C-H. And here is the 5th drink directly from the bottle. Here we go. And time for a little bit of a pour. Thank you very much, everyone who is sending pelagic tunicates. Or, sorry, sessile tunicates, not pelagic tunicates. Those are gross. And tetrapods. Oh, everyone who is sending pelagic tunicates, though, you guys are the absolute worst. And Don, select book title from KJV Giovanni. Nice. It's like a nice little play on get book title. For $2 says, here's one for the tip jar. Very much appreciated, everybody. I really do appreciate it. You guys are a big part of keeping this channel viable, if you will. Because, yeah. It's always, like, it always hangs over my head that, like, at any point, Google would just be like, no, you get no ad money. No one watches your videos because we've throttled them. And that's just it. Like, I don't have a say in that. So, the direct support really does help keep the channel going and also help keep it sustainable. So, I really, really appreciate that. All right, let's hit play and see what else we've got going after I figure out where the heck my mouse is.
Guest speakers, movies they show, they'll watch the movie first, and they'll make sure and point out.
By the way, I think we're 32 away from a special Dapper Dinosaur avatar for November. So,
ooh,
yeah.
Certain things to the students, either especially good things or especially provocative things that make them think, or especially iffy things, So I think we all do that if you're a conscionable teacher. Yeah.
Conscionable? Is that how it's said? Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I guess. I don't know.
It's one of those words that I read every once in a while, but I don't say because I don't think I've ever actually looked up how to pronounce it. So, you know what? Fair enough.
We all have that ability to do it, and I've seen it in people who don't even have degrees, but are looking through materials, and they're very shrewd, very perceptive, and you don't. I know legally you need to have a teacher license in the state where you're teaching.
It is preferred, yes.
So generally for public schools, that is true. Private schools are allowed to set their own requirements, but many of them do require degrees or licenses in relevant areas. For instance, like I know I've said multiple times I went to a Catholic high school, but as far as I know, with the possible exception of the theology teachers, all of the teachers had like degrees in the fields that they were teaching. I think that actually the French teacher might also not have had one, but she was actually a pretty good French teacher anyway. Or at least the second French teacher. The first French teacher was kind of awful, but the one that replaced her was excellent. And I learned more in like that 1 year that I took French with her than I did in the previous all of the years I took with the other French teacher. So that's something, I guess. Vishanti for $2 says, "From the heart, the mouth speaks, Dapper. Pelagic tunicate." No, that was a mistake. That is a result of both these 3 beers and the martini that I used to celebrate not doing jury duty. You don't get to hold that against me, Vishanti. I will not let you do it. I won't. But thank you for the super chat anyway. I really do appreciate it.
Certificate and so on, but there are self-taught people that I'm very impressed with their body of knowledge, and also with their powers of discernment and the ability to pass that on to the students. If we can teach how to think instead of what to think.
Which is literally the point of basically all of secondary education. That's what's happening, right? Like, I get that might not be what's happening in high schools or, elementary schools or middle schools. Yeah, those are the 3 kinds of primary education in the United States. I get that. But once you get to college, you are indeed being taught how to think. And the degree to which that's what's being emphasized increases as you get more and more advanced degrees, right? Like, when you're getting your bachelor's degree, it's important for you to be able to think for yourself, to provide your own reasons for things. But to some degree, there's still a lot of, like, here's what the facts are. Then, when you, get to your master's degree, there's a lot more expectation that you do your own research, that you come up with your own, thesis statements and, your own ideas. And then by the time you're doing your doctoral stuff, like, it's basically all just you, right? It's up to you, man. You're going to get guidance from professors, right? But, like, hey, you better be able to think for yourself by the time you get to working on that PhD, because if you can't, you're not getting it.
My defense, I'm just going to say my evidence is I did my own research.
Goodness. Also, I don't know what is up with all of the slander about me just misspeaking, because the fact is that I say pelagic more than sessile because people bring it up. All of you do. So it's just, more readily accessible in my brain. People are like, oh, in vino veritas, Dapper loves pelagic tunicates. No, pelagic tunicates are the worst, and they look like marital aids. And that's just a fact. And yes, I'm using marital aids as a vain attempt to keep the stream monetized. Because, yeah, that's not happening. Goop23, Job took place in China, for $2 says, "From the heart, the mouth speaks." Yeah, well, here's what's speaking from my heart. Pelagic tunicates are the absolute worst. They should all be destroyed. And we should probably put that right after the destruction of all human-feeding mosquitoes, right? Like, goal 1, eliminate all mosquitoes that feed on humans. Goal 2, pelagic tunicates. So, there you go. That's the order. Marital grenades have a great vibe, says Vishanti. Yeah. Well, that might literally be true in some cases, but I don't think that pelagic tunicates vibrate in all ways that you might want.
Or what your teacher thinks, but how to think. Now, you're really educating.
Zachary B. Hancock says, what about siphonophores? There's a lot of siphonophores that look remarkably like pelagic tunicates. No, those are fine because they're cnidarians. Yeah. I don't want any chordates doing that siphonophore nonsense. Not okay. Asteriu for $4.99 says, Dapper said on record, pelagic tunicates can be sent for new members. It would hold up in court, so it holds up here with the winky emoji. I don't think it would hold up in court. In fact, yeah, we're gonna have to take this to dinosaur court, and since all of you are mammals who don't have a whole lot of standing in dinosaur court, I feel like I'm gonna win because I have standing in dinosaur court. So we'll ask the ravens; they know. Yeah, or we'll ask one of the parliaments of owls, which is one of my favorite collective nouns for a group of animals. A group of owls is a parliament of owls. Like, yeah, that's great. I like it.
And you're really not indoctrinating anymore. You're doing the teacher job.
That was a perfect answer, I think. It's pretty incredible that...
I'm so glad this guy is back. Every time he's back, even though he's saying stuff that's just as weird as what Charles Jackson is saying, like, it just calms me down. This guy should narrate books, but like for falling asleep to, right? Like narrate like collections of short stories that I can just listen to and fall asleep to, because this guy has this amazingly soothing voice. Yes. There was a mid-air collision causing a loss of all passengers on both airplanes today over Kansas. Like, oh, great! That sounds awesome. I love it. Sure, I'm gonna go to sleep now. This guy, yeah, he's doing the wrong thing. His calling in life should be something like that. Yeah, like reading short story collections to fall asleep to. Yeah, or maybe poetry, right? Read some poetry that you can fall asleep to, like a long poem, right? Like read an entire like translation of like the Iliad that you can just fall asleep to. That'd be great.
The teacher's job, it's not to basically have your brain downloaded into the mind of the student, but it's to help the mind that they have on their own to flourish. And so I like how you encapsulated all of that in the end. Now,
students will do, they'll like, no, just tell me, what's the molecular formula for ammonia? I say, you made a model of it in the lab we did last week. Do you remember? It was the blue one. And they go, just tell me. So, no. Let's make another one. And they know by this.
Oh yeah, Asteriu says, or Beowulf. Yeah, I could listen to that guy do Beowulf. Beowulf.
Listen is a strong word.
Okay, but like Beowulf is one of the books that I have like on my nightstand, and my edition is like Old English on the left and Modern English on the right. And I got it at like a used bookstop somewhere. Like, I was in one of the flyover states. I don't even remember which one, but like I bought it at the used bookstore that was like across the street from the hotel. Then I went to like I went to like a chain restaurant that was like next door, and I ordered a gimlet. The bartender didn't know what a gimlet was, so I had to teach him how to make a gimlet. And then I sat with my gimlet reading Beowulf in Old English, and it was great. I loved it. It was just wonderful little afternoon right there. Just sipping on a gimlet, reading Beowulf in Old English from my newly acquired copy of Beowulf from the next door used bookstore. I'll probably remember that forever. So,
time of the school year, that I'm not going to just throw out the little fish. I'm going to teach them how to fish. Well, how did you figure out the other molecule?
I don't know what the point of any of this bit is, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Hey, I don't know. Or, I don't know, I didn't read it in the book. They're not always, but yeah. So what are they made of?
Yep.
They really delight in showing them that they are going. And so
God, he's still going.
But the grants
and what the schools teach.
That's the danger that comes with the territory of true teaching.
All right. That's where we're going to pause, because I want to hear this guy's thing first thing next time, right? So next month, we'll hear from this guy again. That'll be great. Strawberry Vein. Oh, welcome, Strawberry Vein. I haven't seen you in the chat yet. Says, welcome to Thought for Your Thoughts. I'm Christopher Cernick, filling in for Terry Merple. Yeah, that is the kind of vibe that he's going for. So yeah. Looks like we're gonna miss the next Dapper Dinosaur Fancy Avatar by only $18. But that's okay. Jackson, we're starting to wrap up. What do you have that's coming up on your channel that you want to tell people about?
The Coelacanth's Tale.
Ooh.
Gonna be talking about your favorite Sarcopterygian.
That's not my favorite Sarcopterygian.
It is now.
It's really not. For one thing, like I think Meleagris galapavo beats out any Latimeria species.
That's what you think. That's like your opinion, man.
That's true. It is, which is kind of how favorites work.
We're gonna be talking about how cool the coelacanth is and why it should be all of your collective favorite. And like, did Latimeria speciate recently, or was it a long time ago? There's been an oddly large amount of debate on that point for some very good paleontological and genetic reasons.
Okay, that is interesting.
Yeah. We did the coelacanth. We did the lungfish's tail recently. That was the last video in the previous video in the Ancestors' Tale series, and we talked about a whole lot of stuff, like Romer's Gap and plants in the Devonian, the end Devonian extinction. We talked about the evolution of tetrapods. So much stuff. A lot of stuff.
Nice. Also, Savage answers in Yahweh's Cobra for $20 says, for the Avatar, getting us that Avatar poll. So what's going to happen is, and I wanted to explain this a little bit. So for October, I already have a special October spooky avatar set up for my videos that I make that are scripted in October. So what's going to happen is, I will put up the poll for this avatar, and I will let it run until we get another avatar goal hit, at which point I will note down what was in the lead at that point and put in a new poll to go from that forward, right? So if we don't hit it again in all of October, then however many votes that accumulates, that'll just be how many, right? But if we hit it on like another goal on like, say, where's my calendar? October 10th, right? That's another Tuesday. Then on the 10th, I will note down what the avatar vote is, set up a new vote, and then that'll keep going. And if we hit it again, say on like the 24th or something, I'll do the same thing. So if people are enthusiastic and generous enough, we can get a whole bunch of special avatar videos right in a row, starting in November. And that, now again, if you want to see these videos at the month appropriate time, feel free to join the channel or become a patron, because that's the only way to happen, because I am currently like trying to crouch up on like 6 months ahead in terms of scripted content that's available for early access, right? So my ultimate goal is to get to a year ahead and then start doing 2 scripted videos a week until I get back down to like 6 months. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get there, but it's a goal and I'm going to try to get there. Now, as far as what's coming up on this channel in the next week, that's as far ahead as we're going to go. So on Thursday, the 28th, I will be premiering a video. Let me double check to make sure I don't lie about which one it is. It is ICR's Nonsense Facts 1 through 11. This is basically ICR made like 62 facts or something, right? Like, I don't even know how many there are. It's a lot. And they uploaded them all into one big video. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to just address all of them in a row, in order, in like a 6-part series. So this one includes chimp human DNA, origin of the cell, the fossil record, junk DNA, wonderfully made. There's a bunch of other ones. Let's see. Our Young Universe, The Big Bang, Goldilocks Planet, 3 in 1, which I think is about the Trinity, and I think I mostly skipped that one. Sorry. I don't have anything to say about the Trinity either way. At least not on this channel. So yeah, that is coming up on Thursday. I can be there because, yeah, no jury duty. So there you go. The whole jury duty thing is just done with. For now, at least. I guess they can send me another summon some other time. But then on the 30th, I'm currently planning for Kent with Bent. And if Vishanti reminds me, I'm going to invite Dr. Kip Davis. So, Vishanti, try to remind me, because I keep forgetting to do that. Then, on the 3rd of October, we will be doing our Kent with Bent Bench should be wearing a tutu, in case he has forgotten that. Now, if you're looking forward to an October credit video, it probably won't be on the 3rd, just because that'll be like my first big work day after that, and I might not have it done by then. So, like, yeah, I might still be using the September credit video on the 3rd, but hopefully by the time we get to the 7th, which will be my next live stream, after that, we will have the October end credit scene all squared away. And I think that's basically it. Jackson, is there anything else that you want to say to people before we get out of here?
Like and subscribe.
Yes, do
Dapper.
like and subscribe. Please, it does help.
Like Dapper and like his channel. Subscribe to Dapper and also his channel.
Yes. And with that, guys, thank you very much. If you are a member or a patron, I will be heading over to the Discord server shortly in order to go do the Power Rangers watch party. Oh, and also for $9.99, Vince O'Connor says, "Huzzah for no jury duty." Yes, indeed. All right, guys, thank you so much. I hope to see all of you on Thursday. Yeah, that's it for me. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Benthoven, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Kelvin Brostek Van Manen, Denny5252, Eleron Teller, Phil Rivara, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babby, Monkey They Them, Mrs. Spexinder, The Venerable Bede, Sphincter of Doom, and Star Runner. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.